I would like to share something, and this word courage. Jesus began his story by telling us, unless your virtue goes deeper than the scribe and the Pharisees, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. So it is important that we have some idea of what virtue is. And virtue really has to do with the repeated practice, good practice, doing good action all the time. And you keep repeating the good, and you get better at doing good. So virtue is something that builds in the character after a time. It is not something that just falls into you. You know, the church has virtue as one of the natural virtues of the church. And I have here, right, and just in case I may forget them, the church speaks of the 4 cardinal virtues. And the first one it speaks about is wisdom. And wisdom has to do with a person's ability to use the mind, to use the brain, to use his rational thinking in acting rightly in the world. So that is just a brief thing about it. Then it speaks about courage. Just like Barnabas was given courage, the gift of courage and encouragement, here we have this gift enable us to face the daily difficulty without fear. To go ahead, because when we are in a world that is bombarded with so much things, we can easily give up. But courage gives us that tenacity to hold on and to continue, even in the face of danger, that will continue to live our Christian life. We live it with confidence, knowing that He is with us. And the third one is temperance. And temperance has to do more with how we train ourselves in balancing our lives and training ourselves not to not to get out of control. Very often we can lose our cool, and the gift of temperance says that, well, here is a gift which enables you to start thinking rightly and behaving rightly. So, and the last one is justice, which tells us about dealing with our brothers fairly. And so we live in a world in which that doesn't really happen. We can say the world is not fair. But not that the world is not fair, is that people in the world are very often not fair, and we don't care what you do. You can do as much good as you could. There are people who are going to act unfairly to you. And once you get that in your head, when it happens, it wouldn't be as devastating to you. So the church says that we as Christians must utilize those 4 natural cardinal virtues of wisdom, to making decision in our thinking, to have the courage to face danger, to exercise control, have balance in our lives with temperance, and justice, to always act fairly with others and with our dealing with others. But the church also balanced that out with what we call theological virtues. All of this is catechism, so it's not anything new that I am saying to you. The theological virtue of faith is to believe in that everything that God has said to you. Believe that His word is true. And hope is to trust in that what God has revealed, that what God has promised, He will fulfill. And love tells us that it is not selfish. Love is unselfish. It is really the gift that unites us with God, the gift that lasts forever. So the gospel tells us we must not be angry. And the Greek had 2 words that they use for anger. And the first word um, and they try to explain the particular behavior of human beings when they get angry. So you can look at persons and determine what kind of anger is going on there. And the first one is called Thomas. Thomas. You know a flask, right? You know when you open the flask, the heat come out. You have your flask full of hot water, you open it, and the heat just right. So, or your radiator. So something like that. Thomas says that you flare up in anger, but even as you flare up, not long after the anger quells, it quiets. So you know sometimes in our behavior, we get vexed with somebody and we hit out at them or we say something harsh or whatever. But then you catch yourself and you say, well, Lord, I shouldn't do that and whatever. And you can deal with that. So that is anger, yes, but it is still mild. It is still mild. And we have to watch ourselves. Me, for instance, that is something I have to work with every day to make sure I don't get too Thomas with people, because I could flare up in a minute, and I could cool down in a minute. I'm sure some of you would have had that kind of behavior. So it's human. And the other one is called urge. Urge, and the root of that is something that we nurse all the time. You get angry with somebody and you carry it with you. Wherever you go, when you see the person, you still have that anger. And we know that in the case of persons who, girls that were raped and so on, boys being abused, we see that carry that anger with them, especially in dealing with persons, especially persons who meeting the person who have done the act. In the same way for us too, if we are unjustly treated by our worker, co-worker, by our bosses and so on, whenever you see the anger, we carry it within us unless we deal with it, and we can act on it and can be very destructive with it. So Jesus said, don't let your anger overtake you. Don't allow it to control your life. Your life is what more than that. If there is something that is wrong, try to correct it. If somebody wronged you, you can go and speak with the person. But let me tell you this. It is quite true what Jesus, he's not saying the person who injured you must come and speak to you and ask forgiveness. In other places he says that, but in this case he said, you must go to the person. But guess what? You know, strange enough, even from the highest of authority, even the highest of religious leaders, you will commit an act or you may do something wrong. Sometimes it's not wrong, all right, but just to speak about something. And never think because a person is religious that injured you, that you go to them and to work out what you have to say to them, that they will listen to you in honesty. Religious people like to say, I have been praying about this. They are lying. Because if they are praying about a situation, it means that they will come to an understanding by listening to your truth and listening to the truth of what God is saying before trying to ignore or to push a person aside. And each of us, I'm sure, experienced that from priests in our parishes, and we have seen it done to people. And so do not think that, as the Lord says, when you go to work it out, that they will work it out with you. They do not always do it. And this is something that we must be aware of. So once you know that that is a possibility, you do what you're supposed to do. Then, if the door is closed, you would have done your duty. And therefore, you would have done what is right according to you. And you will be doing a virtuous thing. So, we must adhere to what Jesus is saying, but we must also use our reasoning to understand that you could knock at a door forever and the door remain closed to you. Some people remain closed, unforgiving until their very death. And we know that very much. Some of you, I'm sure, have experience of that. So in some, we have to pray and ask God to give us the courage to face our life, to face the challenges that we have, and to try to live our faith in spite of what we may see from our own brothers and sisters or other persons in society. We must be witness to Christ in whatever we do or we say.